All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. For those that don't know me, my name's Craig Smith, Director of Operation for South Dakota DOT. And this is kind of our first attempt this year to do something like this. Obviously, some of the virtual opportunities make it a little bit easier to do. And so the real purpose is every year we do our tentative STIP and we roll it out in the summertime. And we do our hearings throughout the state. And some of the feedback we've gotten from contractors, sometimes how we put our projects together, whether we combine them and make larger projects, we get comments about the time we go to the bid letting. And so the feedback we've been giving is now is the time that we want to get feedback for the projects that are in our 4-year construction program. If we're putting something out there that doesn't make sense, we have some opportunity between now and when it gets let. If we hear those comments, once we advertise it, it becomes a lot more difficult. There's already been a lot of work putting plans and things together that we're pretty much committed at that point. So that's one purpose. The other is just to give contractors an idea of what work's coming. Obviously, there's everyone's hearing on the infrastructure bills and having contractors be able to prepare for our program, things like that. We want to get that information out there so they can plan what work is coming and hopefully gear up and be ready to do some of those projects. So kind of the format today, we're going to go through each of the 4 regions. And so I'll be turned over to each of the region engineers to lead theirs. And then we'll just, if you got any comments or questions, maybe hold those to the end of that region, and then we'll open it up and take those at the time for the region engineers and their area engineers that are on. We'll also, I think, have some time at the end that I'll just touch on some of the material shortages and kind of give an update where DOT's on that, as well as maybe any other questions that might be out there. So I guess knowing we've got some limited time, I think we'll go ahead and get started with the project discussion, and we'll turn it over to Mark Peterson, the region engineer in Aberdeen region. Mark, if you want to go ahead and take over.
Okay. Is my screen coming up?
Yep, we can see it. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. So this will be kind of a look at the larger and more complex projects within the Aberdeen region. I am Mark Peterson here. My 3 area engineers, Bruce Schroeder is the Aberdeen area engineer, Brad Letchers in Huron, and then Matt Bry is in the Watertown office. So I'm going to start off looking at kind of some general lengths and quantities and some of the projects for asphalt. In 2022, throughout the region, we have 7 asphalt projects that cover 91 miles, approximately 215,000 tons, and we're looking at $44.7 million. 2 of those in the Aberdeen area, 3 in the Huron area, and 2 in the Watertown area for that year. In 23, we have 13 projects covering 133 miles, just shy of 370,000 tons for $57 million. 5 projects in the Aberdeen area, 4 in the Huron area, 4 in the Watertown area. 11 projects covering 99 miles, 242,000 tons for approximately $71.7 million. And we're kind of overloaded a little bit that year in the Huron area with 6 projects, but 6 there, 4 in Aberdeen, 1 in Watertown. And then in 2025, we're looking at 10 projects for 107.1 miles.
Nice speaker.
428,000 tons for $68.34 million. 2 of those projects in the Aberdeen area, 4 in the Huron area, and 4 in the Watertown area. A little bit closer look at each year. In 2022, we linked the 2 South Dakota 22 projects together. They totaled 23.1 miles. That'll be South Dakota 22 from I-29 to 15 in Clear Lake, and also South Dakota 22 from Hazel East to US 81 North. Put together, both those jobs total about 48,000 tons. We also linked South Dakota 26 and 47. That turns out to be a 38.8 mile job. That runs from Highway 26 to South Dakota 47. and then from 45 to 47. And also from north of 26 to the US 212 junction, that'll be a 94,000 ton job. Part of the reason we link jobs like that is just proximity, and then looking at our staffing within our area office just to handle them. It gets a little easier for us, and we try to split them out as much as we can, but those two made sense to link together. And then the Highway 15 job and the Grant Roberts County line, that's a long job, 25.2 miles, and that's 62,000 tons. So those are biggest asphalt jobs in 22. 23, we have Highway 12 from Aberdeen to Ipswich, 24.7 mile job, 55,000 tons. Then one of our longer jobs, South Dakota 20, runs from the Fulton Potter County line all the way over to Highway 45. That's 27.3 miles. And then we linked the Highway 15 and 158 projects because they butt up against each other. The 15 will be paving on a new grade, and then 158 is an overlay. That's a 15-mile job, 47,000 tons. And then Highway 45 and 26 north of Miller. That's a 25-mile job. In 24, we have the Highway 25 and 28 paving, and that'll be the paving on the grading job. It's a 16-mile job, 77,000 tons. And then on Highway 20, that's a long straight stretch there, 34.8 miles that runs from Brentford. We're looking at 87,000 tons on that job. And then 25, we'll be doing US 212 from the Potter Fulton County line east. It's a 22-mile job, 60,000 tons. And then we have the Highway 14 project. We link together that runs from Iroquois to DeSmet, and then from DeSmet to just west of Lake Preston. That's a 20-mile job, 133,000 tons. That's a crack and seed on the old concrete there, or rubbleized overlay, sorry. For our grading and shoulder widening, the upcoming years, in 22, we're looking at 4 projects, 16.9 miles of grading for $43 million. 2 in the Aberdeen and 2 in the Watertown areas. In 23, we're looking at 19.8 miles for $28.4 million, 2 in Watertown and 1 in Huron. In 24 is a big year for us, grading wise, looking at 6 projects, 45.4 miles, almost $60 million. 1 in Aberdeen, 1 in Watertown, and 4 in the Huron area. And then in 25, we have 28.7 miles, 5 projects for $44 million. 2 in Watertown, 2 in Aberdeen, and 1 in Huron. Looking at the individual projects within the years, Highway 12 from Ipswich to the divided highway west to Aberdeen, that's 20 miles. It's going to be super 2-lane construction. So we have intermittent passing lanes on alternating sides, and then intersection modification on that, and then paving on top of those lanes. Item number 11, that's the Highway 12 project just east of Aberdeen. That's a grading and PCC paving job. That project I think will be let in 22, but I don't actually look for construction until 23 with the schedule we're going now, or some minimal work in 22. And that'll be concrete paving on top of that grading. That'll be converting that from a divided 4-lane to a joined 5-lane for most of that job. US 212 in Watertown, that's a 1.1 mile urban grading and paving job. And then Highway 15 from the north junction of South Dakota 20 north to Millbank, that's 6 miles of full roadway grading there. In 23, we have the US 14 eastbound and westbound lanes just south of Arlington, and then that US 81 junction. We're going to regrade all of that, rubbleize the existing surface, and then PCC paving and intersection modification. And then Highway 25 north of DeSmet, 16 miles. That's full roadway grading on that project. In 24, of a 1 mile urban reconstruction downtown Huron. That's urban grading and concrete. And then South Dakota 10, from east of the James River to Britain, that's a 24 mile shoulder widening project. I look for that one due to the length to be a 2-year project. So we're looking at 24, 25 construction. South Dakota 34 and 249 and Fort Thompson, that's urban grading, curb and gutter, 3.1 miles. South Dakota 25 from the North Junction to South Dakota 28 north, 6.3 miles. That's just north of the previous grading job. That's full roadway grading, interim surfacing, and then we got a traffic signal or a railroad crossing signal. And then Highway 15, going from South Dakota 28 north to Clear Lake, that's full roadway grading and interim surfacing. In 25, we got a project we're working on with North Dakota DOT. They're actually taking the lead on the project. We're going to regrade Highway 37 and raise it at the border where it goes underwater when we have high water situations in James River. And we have Highway 25 from 9 north of US 212 to the Clark County, Day County line. That's 10 miles of full roadway grading and interim surfacing. Highway 28 from Esteline to South Dakota 15. That's 9.2 miles of grading and interim surfacing. We have South Dakota 28 going from 192nd Street just east of Lake Ponset to about 5 miles west of Esteline. That's 3.5 miles of grading, interim surfacing. There's a structure that has to be replaced over the Big Sioux. And last, we have a 5 mile stretch of US 212. That's 5 miles east of Redfield. That'll be a full roadway grading and interim surfacing there. A lot of frost heave issues in that roadway. And last but not least, kind of looking at our structure outlook, we have a lot of local government type structures coming the next few years. In 22, we're looking at 19 projects across the region for a total of $33.4 million. 6 in the Aberdeen area, 7 in the Watertown area, and 6 in the Huron area. In 23, we're looking at 23 total projects, 24 structures, 1 in the Aberdeen area, 5 in the Watertown area, and then we have 17 in the Huron area that year. In 24, 21 projects and structures for $49.7 million. We're looking at 3 in the Aberdeen area, 7 in the Watertown area, and 11 in the Huron area. And then in 2025, we have 5 total projects. These don't include any county structures because right now on our schedule, the county structures only go out to 2024. But we're looking at $20.59 million on the state system for that year. 2 in the Aberdeen area, 2 in the Watertown area, and 1 in the Huron area. So that's kind of the overlook of our larger and more complex projects. You got any questions?
Any comments or questions in Aberdeen region? Feel free to use the chat feature as well if you think of something while he's presenting, or if you don't want to speak up. But
okay.
Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and move on to the Metro region and Travis Dressen.
All right, good morning. I'm Travis Dressen. I will be covering projects here in the Mitchell region over the course of the next 4 years. The projects I'm going to be focusing on are those that are over $20 million, and then I'll also cover our multi-year projects. I'll talk briefly about the sequence, time provisions, and then cover some of the major quantities on those projects. So before doing that, Mitchell region here in the southeast quarter of the state shows the boundaries there, Mitchell, Sioux Falls, and the Yankton areas. Our engineers, of course, myself up here on the upper right, Jay Peppel and Mitchell, Harry Johnston, he's been with us in Sioux Falls here for about 2 years now, and Rod Gall down in the Yankton area office. Kind of looking at our tentative STIP for the next 4 years, we have a pretty heavy workload here in the Mitchell region. Out of the roughly $550 million statewide, we range anywhere from just under 300 to about $450 million. One thing to keep in mind on these are based on federal fiscal years. So those are the, the letting years, and that's October 1st through September 30th. A lot of our projects, especially in 2023, are going to be our multi-year projects. So this will just reflect the let amount and not necessarily the amount that will be constructed that year. So a lot of those projects are pretty much split evenly so that those dollars are kind of spread across multiple years from a construction standpoint. As we get further into it, our area offices do break down our STIPs per construction year, so we have a better idea of what those construction dollars look like when we start putting together our staffing reports for those projects. This next slide here's this information is taken from our dashboards and C2C, which is our project planning software. These are continually updated, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but I understand that project development sends this information out to Toby sometime in the fall of the year, around October, after the STIP is approved. So these numbers are firmed up a little bit and provide quantities and numbers of projects for our major grading or for our major work items. So 23, 20, 4, 25. All right, jumping into fiscal year 22, have a project here on westbound I-90. So this is just from east of Hartford to west of Humboldt, $34 million project. We're going to let this in 22 with construction in 23. 13 miles of interstate reconstruction here. We're actually in the process of building the crossovers for this project now. So starting on day one, this project should be ready to go for construction. One bridge replacement right here at exit 379 at Humboldt. And then another bridge replacement with a box culvert here just west of 390. 13 miles of subgrade processing on this one. May have some minor grading in areas. There's 200,000 square yards of concrete paving. And then this job will have asphalt shoulders on it. Also in 22, I-29 at 41st Street, so exit 77. Total cost $40.4 million on this one. The DOT project limits are kind of in this middle rectangular box. We'll be also doing a combination letting with the city of Sioux Falls to make improvements on 41st Street. This will be the first diverging diamond interchange or DDI in Sioux Falls. With that, we have 3 more projects that I'll be talking about today where we're going to be putting in DDIs. With this project, we expect to let this one here late this year, possibly very early next year in 22. Again, construction 22, 23. Retain the existing structure at 41st Street. We'll redeck that bridge. We'll widen it to the north. On 41st Street, this will be converted from a 4-lane to a 6-lane divided section from Marion Road through Shirley Avenue. So looking at this project early on, focusing our work on the interchange in 22 and everything to the east of here. And then in 2023, finish the remainder of the corridor. And all these projects that go to multi-year construction are likely going to have a final field completion date of the following year, probably early in the spring or early summer of the following year. This project here, underground work with the city of Sioux Falls, 36,000 yards of unclass. We have 65,000 squares of concrete paving and another 22,000 square feet of retaining walls at the interchange. Moving just a little bit south of here, this is the 85th Street interchange or proposed interchange at 85th Street, exit 74 in Sioux Falls. Almost $50 million on this project. It's another diverging diamond. 22 letting construction. We're seeing likely 23, 24 on this project. So the new structure here over I-29, there'll also be a structure built over the southbound 229 on-ramp. And then reconstruction of 85th Street along with Sundowner all the way through Tallgrass intersection. Again, combination letting with the city of Sioux Falls. One of the things not shown on this on this slide is a northbound auxiliary lane on 29, wrapping around 229 to Louise Avenue and then replacing the northbound off ramp at Louise. We're still working through some of the sequence and some of the time provisions on this project, but we know we're going to be looking at 2 years, 175,000 yards of unclassed, 125,000 yards or 425,000 yards of borrow, 135,000 squares of concrete paving, and then 14,000 square feet of retaining walls here at the interchange. Next project here, this is Highway 42 from the Big Sioux River to Iowa. Right now we have this slated for 22, letting construction in 23 and 24. We've been looking at this one a little bit closer and coordinating with this other Highway 42 project to the west of here. So we may potentially be deferring this one out to 25, 26 construction. So this one's a cost of 35.9 million. It's a pretty good sized grading job, 250,000 yards of borrow on this one, 200,000 yards of contractor furnished select, 200,000 squares of concrete paving and concrete shoulders on this job. Moving on to our 23 projects, exit 406, I-90 and Highway 11 in Brandon. Another diverging diamond here at a total cost of about 37 million. Just under well, letting in 23, 24 construction on this one. Just under a mile of interstate reconstruction here from Split Rock Creek through the railroad bridges to the west. And then just under half a mile or just over half a mile, I guess it is, on Highway 11 or Split Rock Boulevard from Ash Street to the north limits. We'll be maintaining traffic during construction on this project. So kind of the way we foresee this going is reconstructing westbound main line along with the bridge over the railroad, constructing the west side of the Highway 11 structure over I-90, and then the following year just completing the rest of the other half of the project, so to speak. All three of the bridges on this job are steel girder bridges. We have some MSE walls here at the interchange, 76,000 yards of borrow, 166,000 unclassed, and looking at about 65,000 squares of concrete pavement. I-229 Benson Road, this is exit 9 in Sioux Falls, another diverging diamond, $41.7 million on this project. Looking at a 23 letting on this one, construction 23 and 24. So we'll be retaining the existing Benson Road Bridge, constructing a new structure to the north side. That will happen the first year. Looking at building the north side of Benson Road in year one, building the Lewis Avenue intersection and quadrants. The work over here, this will be converting from a 4-lane to a 6-lane section. To the east of the interchange, going to a 4-lane section, both years to complete this, but traffic needs to be maintained during construction at all times. In 24, we'll move back to the south side. We'll put a little slump deck overlay on the existing bridge and then finish out the remainder of Benson Road on the south side, 24. Another 23 project here, construction in 23, 24, big grading job here on Highway 46 from Beersford to Iowa. We're looking at right now splitting this project at Highway 11. There's a small exception area through the intersection of Highway 11. So likely building the west half of this job first in 23, the east side in 24. This will have an interim surface upon completion on this job. About 1.5 million yards of grading, next to no borrow needed on this job. So it comes pretty close to balancing out. Some box culvert work on it. The final surfacing for this project will be in 2025, and that will be concrete paving. So about 250,000 square yards of concrete paving on this project, 25. Projects here on US 18, I-29 to Canton. So letting this one fiscal year 23, construction 23, 24 on this job. So 8 miles of reconstructing rural 2-lane to divided 4-lane, $65 million project here. So it's a good sized one. Grading concrete paving. This project will maintain traffic during construction. So year one, some minor widening here on the south side for the west portion of the job. Grade and pave the north side. And then as we get to the east side of the project, it shifts alignment. So we'll be reconstructing the south side, widening to the north. The following year, just basically flipping over and doing the remainder of the project. 215,000 yards of unclassed, 250,000 yards of borrow, 310,000 undercut, and then this project's 360,000 squares of concrete paving on this one. Asphalt shoulders on this job. Next one's Highway 37 in Mitchell. $21.5 million project here. So letting this one in fiscal year 23, construction 23-24. Basically an urban reconstruction back to what is there today. So a 5-lane section beginning here, south and north Main, all the way up to the spillway, replacing both the structures over Fire Steel Creek, putting in one bridge here, and then a divided 4-lane continuing out to National Guard Road. There would be some city utilities on this project, new storm sewer traffic signal, shared use path roadway lighting. Basically just looking at constructing this one half at a time. Total excavation on here is 130,000 square yards and then 103,000 squares of concrete pavement on this job. Next one, South Veterans Parkway. So 8.5 miles of expressway starting up here at 57th Street down to I-29. I just put all these projects onto one slide, but they're going to come in consecutive years. If you're not familiar with the project, southveteransparkway.com. You can go there to get some information on the project. Again, this is fairly new, so there's not a lot of information out there. I'm actually having a meeting this afternoon on this project from Western to Cliff. So Western to Cliff here in 23, I-29 to Western in 24, Cliff to Sycamore in 25, and then the Sycamore to 57th is likely coming in 26. So 209 million between all 4 projects. Some combination work with some work on the arterial connecting roads as well. So divided 6-lane expressway. I don't have a lot of information on the quantities yet, but generally we're looking at about a 1.5 year construction timeframe on these projects. At least one structure over the railroad, several pedestrian underpasses here at these locations. A lot of grading work and concrete paving on this project. Moving a little further along here to 2024. So eastbound I-90, west of Humboldt, east of Hartford, $36.2 million project. So this is the sister project to that westbound lanes in FY22. So letting this project in FY24 construction that same year. So this will be a 1-year project. Again, 13 miles of interstate. 2 structures on this job, a bridge and a box culvert. Again, grading, processing, subgrade topping, concrete paving at 200,000 square yards and asphalt shoulders on this project. Rear to Highway 42, Willow Run to the Big Sioux River. So letting this project 24, construction currently scheduled for 25-26. But again, I mentioned this project over here to the east, we may defer. So this one in turn may advance up to 24-25 construction. It's about a little over 1.5 miles of urban grading through here. So converting that rural 2-lane to a divided 4-lane section, similar to what's to the west of Willow Run over here. Still working through some details on how we're going to handle traffic control through here. Got some pretty tight areas to work through. There will be bridge widening on both sides of the existing bridge over the Big Sioux River. 315,000 yards of unclassed, 220,000 borrow, and 50,000 yards of concrete paving on this job. This next slide, US 81 north of Yankton. So talking about the surfacing project here and coming in 2024 with construction in 24. In 2023, it'll be a grading job from the beginning of the divided section north about 4 miles. So what I'm showing here is the grade or is the surfacing job in 24. This will be a 1-year project. So about 3 miles of asphalt paving over the existing concrete divided sections, 13,000 tons there. And then concrete paving on the divided 4-lane going to the north here, 4 miles, about 170,000 squares of concrete paving on that job. So if you remember from one of the earlier slides, we had about $387 million in FY24. A good chunk of that is going towards the Highway 44 regrading and the replacement of the Platte Winter Bridge. This is a $150 million project. So we'll be replacing the Platte Winter Bridge, just under 5,800 feet long. That project will be shifted to the north of the existing, so we'll be maintaining traffic during construction. Preliminary layouts have this as a steel girder bridge right now, 19 substructure units. Pretty significant realignment of 44 coming into and out of the structure. We have about 520,000 yards of unclassified on this job. 340,000 of that's going to be waste. So we're looking for some state option waste sites for this project. You can see that the alignment affects the Snake Creek Recreation Area. So we're gonna have a project in 2023 to do some work, some site grading on that to relocate the residents, the maintenance building, build some of these internal roads within the recreation area. We're gonna let that project through the Office of the State Engineer, likely here in 2023. That project will have about 60,000 yards of waste on that one. Still working through the sequence on this project and what this is going to look like, but we're thinking construction 24 through 27. So 3 years of construction on the bridge, 1 year of bridge demo. And again, traffic's maintained at all times during construction on this one. Moving on to I-229 at Cliff Avenue, this is exit 4. This is product of the major investment study from back in 2017. Be reconstructing this from a standard diamond interchange into a single point urban interchange. A little bit of work here on 41st Street to realign that to the north, work on the arterial of Cliff from just north of the Sioux River here up past Lincoln High School. In this project's construction 25 and 26, but we'll also have a project here in 2024 to build a temporary northbound 229 diversion that'll be located here just south of the existing structure. We'll set the temporary bridge, pave out the diversion, build in some of the ramp crossovers to hopefully have this project ready to go from day one once this project's let. We have this scheduled for 2 years. We're looking to get the bulk of this work done during the first year. I don't have a lot of quantities on it, but you can see that it's mainline paving, 6 lanes total, 2 structures over Cliff Avenue. One major phase of this project towards the end is going to be removing this diversion material, hauling that to the west and placing it almost in the same manner for the upcoming Minnesota Avenue reconstruction, which is scheduled for 2027. Projects kind of drop into line with one another. And finally, the last project I have for you today is I-90 at Hartford. This is exit 387, fiscal year 25 letting. Currently thinking this will be a 1-year project, construction in 2025. A little bit of work here on Western Avenue with the city of Hartford from Jeffrey up here to Mickelson Road. $23 million project here. This is just one of the concepts, but all of them being looked at are diamond interchanges. So we'll be maintaining traffic during construction, building the west half of the bridge first. So that will be phased construction on the bridge. 50,000 yards of unclass on this one, 140,000 borrow, and concrete surfacing on this job. So that's an overview of the significant projects coming in Mitchell region over the next 4 years. So I'd be interested in any questions or comments you have.
Any questions or comments for Travis on the Mitchell region projects? If not, I did get a couple in the chat. I'll just go ahead and take care of those now. There was one about just is some of this information on the quantities and things like that going to be available. I know, I guess for those that don't know how the process works, this will go to our commission to approve the tentative STIP. And once that's done, I know in the past, our project development office has shared quantities, I think, with Toby through AGC, but we'll work with them to see if we can maybe provide some additional information on that either through our website or somehow get that out there. as well as, like indicated, this is being recorded, and we'll work with our communication folks to get this, at least the presentation, or posted on the website. The other question I had was about some of those local structures that Mark went through those more than Travis, but is there any thought of combining some of those projects if there's 3 or 4 structures in one location? And those are being reviewed. So as Mark indicated, we combined some of our asphalt projects, but that will be reviewed for some of those smaller local projects that are on the county routes and things like that, where it makes sense. But a lot more information and details to work out on that. So
this is Toby.
Toby.
My friend and I have already started the discussion about getting the quantities, and he gives them in tables and graphs and all of that. And it's right after the commission approves it. So that's usually September-ish, something like that, maybe early October, depending on how long it takes. And then we share all of that. It's quantities by region and by year of, I might forget, but grading quantities, concrete, asphalt, structures. Seems like there was another one in there too that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's pretty good, useful info.
Yeah, so we'll work with AGC on that, as well as try to get something on our website for others that don't get it through AGC. Moving on, looks like Jason is on. We're hoping, he's been having a little technical challenges here this morning. We'll see if Jason can share his screen and present on the Pier Region projects. I'm guessing maybe not as many as Mitchell Region, Jason.
That's going to be correct. Which screen are you seeing right now, Craig? My presentation?
I'm just seeing your desktop.
Okay, let me switch that.
Yep, there you go. Seeing your screen or your presentation now.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm not going to have quite as much as Travis has going on in the Mitchell region, but we will go through some of the things we are going to be experiencing over the next few years. Again, just like Travis, our engineers, we've John and Dean and Doug have been with the department for several years. It shouldn't be a mystery of who they are and how to contact them. But that information is there in case you do have some projects or questions about some of the projects I'm going to talk about. We have quite a bit of work coming up over the course of the next 4 or 5 years. Previously, a lot of our workload has been in the southern portion of the region. And that's going to be migrating northward within the next couple of years, and you will be seeing a lot of work going up in the Mobridge area. So if you're wanting to work in north central South Dakota near God's country, now's your time. Again, overall STIP program for the next 4 years, we're looking at 150 million in 22, quite a bit lower in 23, and then kind of ramping back up again in 24 and 25. The types of projects that we're going to be seeing in the Pier region are pretty much asphalt and grading type work. We have 11 projects for 400,000 tons in 22 and about 400,000 tons in 23. Those 2 years we have 4 grading projects, and we'll talk about a couple of those. And then likewise in 24 and 25, we're still not having much PCC pavement going on, but it'll be mostly asphalt and structural work or grading work. 5 projects coming up in 24 and 25. And the first project I want to talk about here today really isn't even a project in our STIP. It's actually a project that's coming up in our letting in September. This is our Presho to Reliance paving job. And this started off as being just strictly a paving job at 25 miles eastbound and westbound lanes. Over the last few years, the scope has crept a little bit. And now it also includes 19 structures to be rehabilitated on these sections of low slump overlays and epoxy deck seals and the like. It was because of the scope creep, we had a lot of concerns about, how long is this going to take to get completed? So we originally wanted this to be a head-to-head project, do all 25 miles one way, and then do 25 miles in the opposing lanes the next year. Our customers, the public, really don't appreciate being put in a head-to-head section for 25 miles in a row. So we broke that up and looked at several different options. And ultimately what we did is we put together a meeting and we invited several contractors in to come talk to us and help us work through this. Had a very productive project or project meeting, got a lot of good ideas. I didn't list all of the contractors that we invited, but several of them are here in the slide. And I just want to say thanks to those folks for giving us some good input. Ultimately, what we decided, this is going to be a 2-year project. We felt we could get all of the structural work done with the phasing plan that we have in place in 2 years. So it's going to be pretty aggressive, but yet it's going to be something we can certainly do. So I call this one of our success stories. And hopefully with the advent of these types of meetings and these STIP meetings, we can have more projects like this. Moving forward in 2022, we have the Hoban grading project. That's basically going from Hoban north to Highway 12, 14 miles of grading with 3 box culverts. Planning on letting this in the spring of 22 and constructing it over the 22 and 23 seasons. Significant amount of off-site borrow. We had a tough time finding borrow on the project, so we'll have a lot of truck haul material coming on this job. It's going to be a little bit slower construction, but so that's why we're making this a 2-year grading project. The plan is to surface this thing in late 23 following our completion of this job. Another grading project we have in the Mobridge area, right at the North Dakota border near Morristown. It's a 9-mile grading project with 1 bridge, $16 million project. Very similar type construction, letting it in the spring of 23, constructing it in 23 and early 24, and then the surfacing project to follow that. One of the more challenging projects that we have on our project list is Euclid Avenue in Pierre. It's just over 1 mile of urban grading, curb and gutter signals, and asphalt paving on that project. This project has been bumped back several times over the course of the last few years, and we now have placed this in the 2025 STIP year. Hoping to let this late in 24, early in 25 with a 2-year construction. Now, one of the reasons why this is such a challenging job is we have several utilities under Euclid Avenue. One of them that just cropped up here recently was a significant fiber cable that apparently feeds most of the communications in the state. It's going to be a very expensive move for this utility. So we're trying to figure out if there are opportunities for us to avoid it, or if we can, or if we actually have to move it. Because of this utility, if it stays in place, there's a fair chance that this might turn into a 3-year project. Not something that myself or any of the residents up here want to hear, but we want to make sure we have enough time to get in there and get this work done. And with that, that's the significant projects that we have in the Pierre region.
Any comments or questions for Jason on Pierre projects? Did I hear someone, or is that just a mic on? Maybe just a mic on. So I think we'll move on to the last region, Rapid City region. I'll turn over to Todd Seaman, being the senior region engineer. Looks like he figured a way to delegate. I think he's going to have some of his folks do the presenting for him. So Todd.
Good morning, everyone. And Craig is right. I have delegated. I do not have a slide that shows our area engineers because they are joining me today to give the presentations and talk about the specific projects in their area. Just real quick, if you haven't had a chance to download the handouts that were available for our public STIP meetings that list all the projects, I would encourage you to do that. They're available on the DOT website. You know, a lot of good information, specific information on each project. And as Craig pointed out at the beginning, we sure would like comments and on those projects, especially the timing of those projects. So John's getting his presentation up and running. Here we go.
You see it?
Okay. Yep. You're still not on full screen though mode. Give John a second here. Again, those presentations, those handouts for all 4 regions are available on the DOT website on the project development page. Just specifically for the Rapid City region, we make up the 9 westernmost counties in South Dakota. And for the 4-year STIP, we have right at $618 million worth of construction work. So with that, I will turn it over to John, and he'll cover the projects in the Belle Fourche area. Thanks, John.
All right, I'll start with Belle Fourche area surfacing, resurfacing 2022. First job I'll talk about is the new O2 Marine. It's nearly 48 miles, has quite a bit of pipe replacement, 1,000 feet pipe replacement, and it's a little over $20.5 million. Anticipated lettings in the fall of 2021 and completion roughly a year later. Just to the east of that, another pretty good sized paving job, asphalt paving. It's from Faith to Dupree, and that's nearly 21 miles and estimated at 7 million. So a lot of paving on 212. Other jobs, county structures. So we're talking about some bundling some projects. It has one we're looking at has four county bridges. We know what 2 of them are. One's a continuous concrete, one's pre-stressed, and not clear, haven't decided what the other 2 are yet, but the 4 blue stars indicate where the locations are. They're in Butte, Meade, and Lawrence County. 2 more structures in 2022, county structures specifically. There's a bulb T over Redwater and a triple box on Sonoma Road. So a total of 6 structures, county structures that year. 2023, Belle Fourche to Whitewood. We're adding some 4 passing lanes and a turn lane, estimated around 8 million. A late or October 2022 letting, hoping to start earlier, but I don't know, won't be able to get too much done that fall, but anyway, it has a completion date of 2023 fall. Some more county structures in 2023. Has 6 county structures, 1 in Perkins, 1 in Lawrence, 3 in Butte, 2 in Meade, and we'll more than likely do some bundling after the structure types are determined. And with that, I'll turn it over to Steve Palmer, I believe.
Thanks, John. All right, I think we're ready. Everybody see that one correctly? So I'm Steve Palmer, the engineering supervisor with the Rapid City area office. And I'll just go through each of our years, split it up like by years, like Mr. Matheson did. So in 2022, starting with exit 37, this is going to be a reconstruction of Interstate 90 between exit 37 and exit 40, including reconstruction of exit 37 and rebuilding the Tilford Port of Entry. So this will be a $32 million job and looking at a March of 2022 letting. So in pre-rally of 2022, we'll be looking at off alignment grading, parts of the westbound ramps, potentially parts of the eastbound ramps, and get started on the substructure grading. Post-rally 2022, we'll be getting into the westbound boxes. We are not going to be resurfacing all of westbound interstate here. That was done in 2008. And we're looking to get some median separation out of in this area for potentially a 3rd lane between Rapid City and Sturgis in the future if that is needed. So post-rally 2022, we'll be looking at the boxes and starting the substructure work. And in that time frame, it will be we'll have two-way traffic in the eastbound lanes at which point we will be closing the port of entry and starting that reconstruction of that port. That'll stay closed through the winter, and then pre-rally of 2023, we will then be working on the eastbound lanes of I-90, regrading and resurfacing, as well as the eastbound boxes. Finish up the structure over exit 37. And in that same sequence, at the bottom of the screen, you can see exit 40. We will just be regrading and resurfacing the westbound on-ramp and the eastbound off-ramp. In addition to that work, we will be adding a variable speed limit system on the interstate between mile marker 28 and exit 40. And that'll be phased in with a couple of projects over the next 5-6 years, as well as other ITS upgrades, mostly to do with the port of entry at Tilford. Get the next slide here. It's locked up, sorry. All right, also in 2022, Nemo Road, Pennington County project, horizontal curve realignment for $3.3 million. We think we're looking at a spring 22 letting, but the county is still working on right-of-way on this. We've had a number of accidents, including due to the compound curve of the roadway, and we're going to get that straightened out. All right, next one in 2022, also a job that we've been waiting for several years on, South Rochford Road grading project, about $14 million job, about 10 miles from Rochford down to Deerfield Road. And we're looking at possibly a May 2022 letting again. We're having some issues getting right-of-way and environmental clearances completed. So that'd be a 2022 and a 2023 work or project. Intended to be a full regrading on that, but due to environmental constraints, it's going to be more likely some light regrading and some of the with alignment readjustments. You can see the quantities here at the bottom of that page there as well. Also in 2023, now the intersection of Highway 85, just south of the interstate with Colorado Boulevard, just on the east side of Spearfish, we've had several angle intersection crashes at this intersection, and we're looking to take this into an RCI or convert it to an RCI or reduced conflict intersection. Basically, it becomes a three-quarter movement for egress onto 85, or excuse me, ingress onto 85, with that left turn being restricted, but you make a right turn, go to the following or to the next intersection and make a U-turn through the median. So that'd be a $2.8 million project, looking at a spring 2023 letting and complete in 2023 as well. Also in 2023, I-190 in Rapid City, we have the Anamosa Street structure that's going to be replaced. That is load limited right now, so this is on the fast track to get this one replaced for us. $4.8 million job, looking at a March of 2023 letting. This is going to have significant traffic and pedestrian impacts. We're still looking at the structure type. It's going to be a continuous concrete bridge that'll more than likely require full closure of I-190. Possibility of going a grate or a girder, a shallow girder bridge, at which point we can probably do a two-way traffic on I-190, but still have impacts to the pedestrians that we're going to have to accommodate. We have a couple of housing complexes on the west side of the interstate, Horace Mann Elementary School right on the east side. Also in 2023, we've got some local structures, 5 structures, 5 locations, or five bridges, 5 projects, just 4 locations. This one on the upper left replaced the Elmore Road structure over Spearfish Creek at $400,000. Huther Road, oops, this one's down here, south of Wall, down by the park, at $500,000. That's a single structure by itself. And then these 2 just north of Quinn, they're right in the middle of the dot there. There's 2 within about a quarter mile of each other that need to be replaced. And then one over San Marco Boulevard over the Pierce Street drainage ditch in Northwest Rapid. It's at $400,000. These are all scheduled currently for an end of September of 23 letting, so likely end of 2024 completion. So we'd like to hear some thoughts on how these could be bundled, whether by geographical location as well. or by structure type. So we will ask those questions here at the end as well. Moving on to 2024, this is the exit 46 interchange, $33 million project. Looking at a post-rally start in 2024, starting on the Elk Creek Road grading. It's right through here. I don't remember exactly the numbers are. There might be about 250 to 300,000 yards of material that could be moved immediately. And in addition, working on the railroad structure, and there's retaining walls for the westbound ramps. That's work that can start probably post-rally of 2024. Then pre-rally 2025, we work on the westbound lanes of I-90 here. And I believe there's 5 or 6 box culverts that cross underneath the interstate right at this location. And this project actually goes from exit 40 to the north, almost down to exit 40, starts at exit 44 to the north, goes almost to exit 48 to the south. And so this is through Piedmont on the north side. So again, through pre-rally 2025, working on those westbound lanes, the boxes, the new structure over exit 46, and then post-rally of 2025, we'll work on some crossover adjustments. And the pre-rally 2026, get back into the eastbound lanes and finish out those box culverts. As I talked about before with the exit 37 project, there's going to be some, we're looking to widen the median, and this one will have some significant alignment shifts in both eastbound and westbound, which makes the sequencing a little challenging. We'll probably end up with some concrete median barriers down the median through the winter in between those two phases. Also in 2024, 2 structures over Bull Creek, just east of Wasta, $11.8 million. We'll work on the westbound lanes pre-rally, eastbound lanes post-rally. These new structures will be approximately 120 feet longer than the existing structures, and the lengthening will happen on the west side. In 2024, also, we're resurfacing Highway 44 from Scenic to 11 miles west of Interior at $8.5 million, about almost 20 miles of surface resurfacing. This includes several miles of full depth reclamation on the east end of the project. We don't anticipate any major pipe work on this one. There's probably some ends to be replaced. We've tried to push this up due to the subgrade issues. And so if we have any significant pipe work to do, that's going to be completed on a later project. Also, now moving into 2025, Highway 385 have a horizontal curve that we're going to realign on the south end of Strawberry Hill. It'll be a $6 million regrading project. We have a history of accidents on this curve, and also a history of mitigation projects that we've tried to reduce those accidents. So this project in 2025 will be concurrent with the very last of the 3 Highway 385 shoulder widening projects that Mr. Zocker is going to talk about a little bit later. So we'll have 2 fairly significant grading jobs in the Rapid City area in 2025. Moving on to the Highway 16 corridor, we'll have 2 projects in 2025 on Highway 16. This is the first one at Neck Yoke Road at a tune of $12.8 million. This is going to be, we've got accident history, again, at the intersection of Highway 16 and Neck Yoke Road. We're going to replace this with an RCI again. This will be full regrading. In addition to the full regrading and resurfacing, we will be replacing the 2 structures over Spring Creek here on the left side of the screen. That'll be a 2-year project. And lastly, in 2025, further west on Highway 16, we're going to modify a couple of intersections from Rockerville to Reptile Gardens. That project is coming in at $3.3 million. Reason this one is so much less than the previous one is this is not a full regrade yet on this project. This should just be widening for the U-turn points and some median modifications. Now see on the dash, or on the top screen there, we've got some dash lines. Those I'm not sure that those costs have been captured in this cost yet. I'm sure that's going to be adjusted later. So, and with that, that is all I have.
Next, we'll go to Mr. Zucker for the Custer area.
Okay, is everybody seeing the Custer area?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We will start with a project that is not in the STIP because we're moving forward to try and get this let late October, early November of this year. It's urban reconstruction through Hot Springs, 58,000 square yards of PCC surfacing, storm sewer lighting. The city has a very unique suspended sidewalk project. I'm drawing this to your attention because I want you to look for a notice of a pre-bid meeting that will be coming up shortly. Completion of this 2-year project would be in December of 2023. We'll move to the 385 projects that Steve mentioned. This is a series of 7 projects on US 385 that go from Sheridan Lake to the Tomahawk Golf Course. Will begin in 2023 and be complete in 2026. There'll be 3 different segments of shoulder widening followed by full depth reclamation and asphalt surfacing. There's also crack seat and overlay across the dam at Pactola Lake. The first project, which would be number 94 if you had the handout, will be let in spring of 2023 with a completion of May in 2024. There'll be 2 different closure areas from Sheridan Lake to Sheridan Lake Road. Because of all of the rock and how vertical this section is, this will be closed for the summer. And as we near Pactola Lake, we'll have a winter closure as well on 385. $23 million on that one. We'll move forward to 2022 structure at Palmer Gulch Resort on South Dakota 244. This is scheduled for a spring letting of 2022. Once again, this road will be closed from October of 22 through April of 23 with a June 23 completion date. We'll move ahead to urban reconstruction through Pine Ridge. This is on US 18 from the junction of 407 to the turn to go to the hospital. So PCC paving, there will also be some ADA work on US 18 and 407. Jump ahead here to 2024 project on US 16A through Custer State Park. Mill and overlay with a significant amount of pipe work. There will also be an intersection revision with the Wildlife Loop Road and structure replacement over Grace Coolidge Creek. During the structure replacement, which will happen during the winter months, there'll be a detour onto some county roads and onto the Wildlife Loop Road. We have a couple of curve realignment projects that will be let together due to some compound curves we want to fix. One is on US 16A near Spokane Creek. The other one is shown here on 87 near Mount Coolidge. These are 2025 projects. I'll finish up with some Game Fish and Park owned structures near the Black Hills Playhouse and Center Lake. 3 different small structures let in one contract, total cost $1.2 million. And that is it.
Any comments or questions for Rapid City Region staff?
Just one comment I would make, Craig, is that I think the contractors all noted the number of local structures in all 4 regions. We do plan, as Steve pointed out, to bundle some of those and combine different sites. So we sure would like input across the state on what makes sense to contractors and how to bundle those. So if you have input, we sure would like to hear that. So.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Well, I guess maybe just to wrap this up, and then I'll close with some of the discussion on the material shortages and that. Definitely appreciate everyone's time. Like Todd said, we're certainly open to feedback, whether it's specifically to projects or even this process. This was kind of our first attempt this year to do something maybe a little bit more in depth than what we do during our normal tentative STIP public input process. So, certainly if you've got some thoughts, just even throw them in chat today on what you liked about it, maybe information you wish would have been provided, that type of thing. And based on the comments and feedback, we'll certainly look to improve going forward. So we get the information. As Todd said, it's not just the local. If you just think about the amount of work that was there, and who knows where some of the other federal funding's coming, having a well-prepared contractor industry is certainly a key to our success, and important that we work together to be ready to respond to these projects that are coming. And any input and things we can do, we want to hear that and make sure that we're considering that as we plan the projects going forward. So I see maybe Toby, you got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. And I just wanted to thank the DOT. I wanted to thank you. I want to thank the region engineers, everybody else that presented. We've been talking about a way to get contractor input on a little bit more of this project specific details for a number of years. I think this is a great start. I listened in on a couple of your normal STIP meetings. I think it was the Pier 1 and the Aberdeen. And it's really nice when you can drill down into project stuff and quantities and, anticipated letting and construction schedule and things like this. I saw there was 92 people on at one time. I think that's probably a lot more than you're getting at your public meeting. So I think this is great. Obviously, the construction industry, engineers are really like this type of stuff. Also saw Joel's name on there before. I don't know, Joel, if you're still on here, but I appreciate everything your staff is doing. The one thing I wanted to ask, and you started a little bit, Craig, is what is the best way to for contractors now if they have questions? Now they've seen some projects. Now they might have some questions. A lot of times they'll reach out to me. I can reach out to somebody or find that. But I know before we talked about trying to get them together if they want to know more details on a certain project with a region or an area engineer, maybe I'll throw that over to you as well. And then I don't know if this is necessarily the time or place, but I know that Mike Beam, I didn't see his name on the call, but I know he's looking at some, it's kind of like the bundle that kind of goes with that, but maybe some optional, tied combination bidding. We've got a group of people together to work with you guys on that, maybe where that's at and how that might be used with some of those tied projects. So I know it's kind of a lot rolled into one, but I'll just let you take a shot at some of the things I threw out.
Well, yeah, I think the best, if there's a specific project or want either more information or maybe you got comment, really going to that area engineer, I think is the best. The area offices are the ones that are, they have that input or really set the direction as far as, is it a multi-year project, how it's going to be sequenced. Obviously they work with our project development to plan accordingly, but working with that local area office is a great way to do that. Either the area engineer or that project engineer putting those plans together would be a great place to start there. And Mike Beam, Director of Planning and Engineering, was not able to make it, but you're right. They're looking at, because part of one of the reasons to have the meeting is some of our combined projects, and we have a large asphalt. We've gotten at least some contractors concerned they get too large and maybe harder for them to be competitive on it. What's the right way to do that? So I believe what you're referring to, Mike's folks are working on possibly, if you have two, say, large asphalt projects, maybe you bid a combined as well as bid them individually, and then the lowest benefit to the state would be chosen. So if the two individual contracts are lower than maybe the combined, you go with two individual contracts, or you go combined. So I believe that's what Mike's folks are working on. Toby, with you. Yeah. So yeah, I think talking those area offices, if it's bigger picture things, or reach out to myself, the region engineers, that type of thing. Any feedback we can get. If you start with one of us, if it's not the right person, we'll certainly find the right individuals to get that to. I see Joel's maybe got his hand up now.
Yeah. And Toby kind of segued this in. Couple things. One, we are trying to find more ways that we can communicate and get input from everybody. And this is just another forum. So I wanted to thank my guys for providing this, as well as for you guys for being a part of this and coming up with ideas or suggestions of how we can improve upon this from an overall standpoint. But I think one of the other major things that's happening is definitely the infrastructure bill, and as Craig alluded to it, both the House and the Senate have came with very large packages. And so you see that in this tentative STIP at this point in time, and you guys are key in order for us delivering the projects that are needing to get done and continue to improve upon the transportation system that we have. So we need to continue to communicate and partnership together and what all the things that we're doing. So I wanted to thank you guys for being a part of this and having those questions and helping us get better from a communication standpoint too. So thank you.
Thanks, Joel. Any other comments on the projects? I guess the last plug, I think someone referenced it. Our website, if you go there, it is fairly easy to find where the tentative STIP and that information is. Once it's approved, then that information is also out there on the approved STIP, what's in the program, and there's interactive maps there as well as reports and things. Sometimes it's a little challenging. I recommend the interactive map if you're looking at a specific area, but I guess that's another resource to look at as well. And like I said, we will work on getting this presentation as well as the information that was in the region engineers presentation slides, as well as what is produced by project development on the approved STIP, what's typically provided to AGC. We'll work on getting that out there. Likely it'll be through the website, but look for that as well going forward. So, well, the last topic I was going to touch on, since we had a group here and we've been doing at least some discussions with AGC and some contractors with the material shortages and some of the challenges, and kind of two things there. One, just the immediate need on what we're seeing in the current projects. We certainly are hearing that there are different material shortages with pavement marking paint and sound like PVC pipe and wood posts and things like that. And this year, for those projects that have been led and awarded, the direction we're giving to our staff, our specifications definitely allow, when it's a true material shortage, to work through those time delays. That's in our section on contract time. So if you have delays due to that, be working with your area offices if it's a time issue. If it's as far as getting the materials, the one thing we have encouraged is look at substitution. So if you have ideas on substituting different materials and if it's comparable quality and things like that, work again with your area office. We've directed them to be working and coordinating on that when it makes sense. So I know we get questions on price increases and escalation and how the specifications are set up. That's not allowed, and we have not been considering those, which is in line with what other state DOTs are doing. But as a result of going through this, and I think Toby referenced this as maybe the third or fourth time in his tenure with AGC, we've had discussions on the need for having additional price escalation clauses similar to what we have for the fuel cost index. That's an optional provision to opt in or out of at the time of bid letting. So we are reviewing. We've had a group together, at least a couple of high level discussions. Is there a need? And there seems to be at least an interest to explore that. So we'll continue to work with AGC on that and maybe start developing some draft provisions that could be considered for future projects. But so that's just kind of a quick update on where that's at. I don't know, Toby, if you want to add anything on that. I know you were going to reach out to some of your members just to get some feedback on ideas. We had some sample provisions Toby provided, but I think you're going to get some more information, and then we'll continue to coordinate on moving that forward.
Yeah, that's correct. I think you covered it pretty well. I think what we're going to do is just a very simple survey to our members and just ask them, are they a fan or they want to look at any escalation clauses? Do they not want to look at any, or do they want to try and do something different? If so, which materials do they think maybe we should look at to try and come up with indices? And then also, does anybody have any other good ideas to handle that? A couple things came out of our call yesterday where you mentioned that if people are looking at making big purchases of material, say it's an October letting and they're not going to use the material until April or May, if they make that big purchase and stockpile it, you will make a stockpile payment And I think that was a good clarification to a lot of people too. So some of those might help us get by some of those snags as well. But yeah, we're gonna do a poll of our members, talk about it with the board and get back to you guys here within a couple of weeks.
Okay. So appreciate that. And I guess that's kind of what we had prepared. Any last questions or comments from anyone? Well, thank you everyone for your time. I am going to leave the meeting open. If someone's got a comment in the chat, what you liked, what you didn't, maybe something the DOT should be thinking about from like Joe said, we're working to be better communicators. If there's things we're not doing, you think we could be, I'll leave it open for a little bit, throw that in the chat, and we'll save that and continue to work through these things. And appreciate all your work. And I think the more we work together, the stronger we're going to be as an industry. So appreciate everyone's time this morning.